When we calved earlier, like March and April, we did any number of things with those calves. There was a few years where we sell them off the cow. There's a few years where we background them and sell them in the wintertime. And then there was even a few years where we retained ownership all the way to slaughter. And as we looked at that, and I can remember, several different times when we retained ownership, we get into May, we'd be thinking, hey, we got to try to get these things sold. We got to get them out of here before the summer slump in, when everybody's bringing their spring calves to town. And we can never get them done. We can never get them finished to beat that summer slump. And, last part of June, first part of July, that's the seasonal low in the fat cattle market generally. And we just could never get them there soon enough. And so it's either, we're fighting. So as I stepped back, I looked at it. I said, we're fighting the weather to calve in the hardest part of the year, and then we're trying to sell our cattle at the same time everybody else is trying to sell them. We got to look at something else different here, and maybe it makes sense marketing-wise to calve at a different time to hit a different market. So that means either going earlier or later. We don't generally retain ownership on very many cattle anymore. We do at times if the market says that we should. But even as we're looking at selling feeder cattle, we can look at some different plays in the market that fits different marketing windows that really make sense. So I started paying attention to value of gain, and that's basically how much is the market paying me to put an additional pound on a calf at any given time. And what I came to realize was if we market appropriately at the right time when there's good demand for a little bit lighter weight calf, which for what we're doing, January and February is when there's guys that are buying calves to go to grass the next summer. And at least in our area, that market gets really good, really strong after the first of the year. It just made a lot of sense to raise, say, a calf that's going to weigh 5 1/4 to 5 1/2 in January and selling them at that point. Because when I looked at the value of the gain, the value between this 550 and say a 650 or 750, those additional 100 or 200 pounds, the market just wasn't paying very much for those additional pounds. It was paying less than what I think it cost to put those pounds on. So what I decided was it looks to me like if I want to have a calf that finishes May 20th, let's say, and I want to own a feeder calf that is going to hit that late spring market before the summer slump, it makes more sense for me to buy those additional pounds than it is to actually raise them on my own place. Now I haven't actually done that. I haven't bought any heavier weight calves after selling my lightweight calves, but I think that's one way to look at it. Okay, what am I going to do with these calves? Does it still make sense to sell in the fall, or should I be looking at backgrounding them for a month or 2 months and then selling into more of a grass cattle type market? Anyways, those are kind of some of the things that I've had to look at and consider for our situation. Well, I think if you already have some facilities and maybe do the pencil work and you realize you're not getting paid to calve earlier by calving your own cows through that facility, there's an opportunity to either do some custom calving where you get paid by the calf. Maybe that's the way to go about it, or if the right deal comes along where there's something that's on sale and you can buy some bred cows and calve them out and sell them as pairs or whatever. I mean, it opens up, one of your investments, that being your calving facility, to some other potential uses besides just your own cattle.
As far as marketing goes, we've done it different every year depending on cycles or prices. We've sold as early as January. We've sold as late as April, depending on calf prices and whatnot. This year we are looking into running our calf crop over all the way through, selling them as yearlings. But if you took the average of what we've done since this, we've sold lightweight calves, and the philosophy has just been to just have a bare bones type product without the inputs, with as few inputs as possible. So that's been our approach, and that's been working. So we are a cow-calf first is kind of what we consider ourselves. We've added custom grazing 3 years ago. And we also do hunting, pheasant hunting and guiding operation. We did dabble with multi-species grazing, taken in sheep as a custom grazing option. And just as an idea, it's all in that changing thought process to figuring your profits by the acre, not by the cow. And sheep were just a tool to try to gather a little more profit per acre, and from a different perspective, I guess.
The cattle market's not all that hot, but last year when I sold I sold my calves in 2 different groups, and actually did well compared to the markets on both of those times for what I was turning out. I think the weight of the livestock just kind of matched with what the market was looking for at the time, where when we used to calve earlier, the glut of cattle, the heavier cattle, affected the market, that it wasn't as profitable.
And there's something there, and in our case, we're looking at the steers that are in the 650, from 600 to 650 pounds. Maybe there's a lighter end at 575 or something. That also dovetails in our area of South Dakota, northeastern South Dakota, when stocker operations are starting to put together their calves for summer grass. And anything that's 650 and under is into their ball game. That's what they want. So we're able to hit that as that market is starting to heat up. We can get rid of those calves at that time. Definitely a good market. And because 80% of the people calve 2 months earlier than we do, we're not flooded at that particular time with that size calf.
I don't know that we have all the right answers, but I can tell you what's worked the best for us is as we have later calves, you're probably not going to sell fall calves with the same weight and for the same dollars as you did before. But leaving the calves on the cows longer, letting the cows take them through the time that we would normally have them in a lot, weaning them, and then selling them, and maybe the lighter end, and now I think in the future maybe all of them, carrying them over and running them as short yearlings. And it gives us an option to, if grass is short, if it's a drier year, we can market them a little earlier. If it's not, we can run them a little later. So that's kind of been our marketing strategy now.
A long time ago, we identified our resources and possibilities for our ranch. We liked grass-fed, the idea of finishing an animal on our ranch, being born there and finished, using the resources on the ranch. And that just led us. Once we established those goals, that led us to grass-fed, and it led us to certifying organic. And there is a small profit premium in doing what we do. It's not big, but it does exist. And so there's a profit motive, and then there's the motive of developing the resources we have there and bringing in as little outside feed as we can. The grass-fed has a more meaning to it than just profit. It represents our ranch and a quality eating experience. We just sold 40 head of grass-fed finished cattle that graded prime. And that wasn't on our place. They spent the last 6 months on another ranch. So I give the credit to getting them into a high carcass value to the place they're at. Now they are, but that just tells you that the stigma of grass-fed having to be lean is not true. It's actually, these cattle can grade prime if they're handled properly.
We don't develop heifers. We don't put money into them. We don't expect them to have a 95% conception rate. We wouldn't even want them to necessarily. So we just market the rest of them as stockers, and they're good price. And so is what it ended up doing was it opened doors that I'd never dreamed would be there. So now we market at any time. We just became really flexible with our marketing. So we have what's called a drought plan, and our marketing is intermingled with our drought plan. And so we now use our steer calves as phase 2 of our drought plan, and we can keep them through the spring flush. So they eat a lot of our spring flush. It helps us to regulate our stocking rate so that we don't get overstocked. And so if we don't get a certain amount of rain by a certain date, we're selling those animals. And guess what? The price is like generally in June and July. They're really good. So we're selling a product that is overvalued at the right time. So it opened some doors we didn't see. And it led into something else that we didn't foresee, is that by leaving our calves on our cows all winter, we didn't preg check during the winter. We would simply go out and take the cows that were cycling that weren't pregnant. We'd take those cows off from the herd. We'd run them separately. They were phase 1 of our drought plan. Those would get sold. If it didn't rain by a certain time, those were the first group to get sold. And you can put a tremendous compensatory gain on any animal that come through the winter in your April, May, June flush. And so those animals just gain like crazy, and that's when they're the most valuable in the marketplace. The price is higher, they've gained like crazy, and so now you had a product that you never didn't have before. And if you're in the cattle business, you're in the cull cow business by default. It's just the way it is. So we turned the cull cow business into an enterprise. And so it's really been a great fit that we didn't foresee any of that happening. And so we've got more product to market at more times of the year when they're more valuable. And so ranch-wise, our profitability has gone way up. That's why we don't look at how much did a calf weigh, at 205 days. We just don't pay much attention to that anymore because there's such a much bigger picture for our ranch.
A few years ago, kind of got a wild hair one day, weaned our threes, or they had first calf heifers, took first calves off of them, left them on really good grass, just boom, blossom. They had shine on them. We bring a couple hundred of them home. Told my wife, as we were trailing them home, we'd only left pasture about a mile. I said, we need to sell these. They're candy. They're the candy right now. We need to take a sorting stick to them, lay it down their back, and we need to sort these cattle. And we took about 20 heifers off of them. Nice cattle. I mean, anybody would have loved them. I loved them. My wife kind of cringed when I sold them. Turned around and went back and sat down at Sale Barn and bought 5 loads of bred cows. 6s, coming 6s, ranch cows that fit in my deal. I always sell, I want something that's available for sale that day, the day you drive my yard. If you like them, I want to sell them. If you like my cows, I want to sell them. If you give me what I want, I'll sell them to you. Because I'm not a genetics guy. I'm not that smart, and I know I'm not that smart. Opportunity, that's what I look at. Would I build another add-on to the barn? Yeah, I would add onto the barn. Is it because I have a problem? No, it's not because I have a problem. Mine is I want the opportunity.
We decided to start changing. Plus, we were trying to find a different market for our cattle. Instead of going the same market everybody else was, we was trying to find a different time frame to sell calves. And we slowly started moving it, but in 5 moves, we went from 1st of May to the 1st of March to the 1st of May.
We calved in April because we had a lot of payments to make. By November 1, lease payments, other payments, and it kind of dictated our life, how we calved. But now we finally just said, we got to take control of this. And so we're going to calve at a later date, probably start retaining our calves, and look at marketing on different, it's trying to get a niche market. I know it's tough, but we're up for the challenge because we just got to. We can't rely on sale barn prices anymore.
There's so many marketing options
with this late calving. If we got to have a drought and we don't have feed, I can go ahead and sell and wean and sell calves in the fall. If I've got feed like this year and last year, I keep those calves, run them till end of February. They're weighing 700 pounds, sell them then, or I kind of green them through the winter and make some yearlings out of them if I think I'm going to have grass. Just so many options. If you got those 650 pound calves in the fall, you don't have a lot of options with them. You sell them or you go to feedlot with them. So I think the marketing is easy, make a lot better.